Every single morning, before the world tells you who you are, you must decide it for yourself. The mind is a muscle, and if you don't train it early, life will train it for you with pressure, pain, and disappointment. That quiet moment when you wake up is not ordinary, it's sacred. It's the moment where discipline is born, where focus is sharpened, where greatness is either prepared or postponed. You don't build success by chance, you build it by choice, and that choice starts every morning. Build your mind before excuses wake up. Build your mind before fear speaks. Because if you can control your morning, you can control your direction, and if you control your direction, nothing in this world can stop you. Every morning you wake up, you are handed a clean slate, not by luck, not by chance, but by grace, and what you do with that moment determines how strong or weak your mind will be for the rest of the day. Before the noise starts, before the phones light up, before opinions, criticism, pressure, and distractions rush in, there is a quiet window where your mind is most honest and most vulnerable. That moment is not for scrolling, complaining, or delaying life. That moment is for building something solid inside you. The world does not defeat people first, it defeats their thinking. If you don't train your mind early, it will wander, and a wandering mind becomes a weak mind. Discipline in the morning is not about perfection, it is about decision. You decide to wake up with purpose instead of panic, with intention instead of reaction. Your mind must hear strength from you before it hears doubt from the world. Most people wait for motivation to arrive, but disciplined people wake up already committed. They don't feel strong every morning, they choose to be strong. The mind believes what it hears repeatedly, so every morning you must speak vision into it, speak courage into it, speak responsibility into it. Life is not waiting to be fair with you, and success is not waiting to feel sorry for you. What separates those who rise from those who repeat the same year over and over again is mental preparation. When you build your mind in the morning, you are laying bricks that pressure cannot break later in the day. You are training yourself to stand firm when emotions try to knock you down. The morning is where excuses are defeated quietly, long before challenges appear publicly. Building your mind every morning means you stop negotiating with weakness. You stop asking how you feel and start asking what must be done. Comfort is expensive, and most people pay for it with their potential. The early hours teach you self-respect because you prove to yourself that you can show up without applause. Nobody claps when you wake up early. Nobody praises you for choosing discipline over delay. But that unseen work becomes visible results later. The mind remembers who was in control when it mattered. You are either training your mind to lead or allowing it to follow circumstances. Every time you win the morning, you teach your mind obedience, focus, and resilience. Pressure doesn't create character, it reveals it. When life pushes you, the only thing that pushes back is a trained mind. That training does not happen in comfort zones or random moments. It happens daily, intentionally, repeatedly. The mornings are not designed for rushing, they are designed for alignment. You align your thoughts with your goals, your values with your actions, your beliefs with your responsibilities. If you skip this alignment, the day pulls you in directions you never planned to go. A strong morning builds a strong identity. You stop reacting like a victim and start responding like a leader. Leaders don't wake up confused about who they are. They wake up rehearsed, grounded, and ready. Every morning is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you choose discipline, you vote for growth. When you choose excuses, you vote for delay. You don't need hours, you need honesty. A few focused minutes of mental conditioning outweigh hours of unfocused activity. You remind yourself why you started, what you stand for, and what you refuse to become. The mind needs reminders because the world is full of distractions. If you don't remind yourself of your purpose, the world will remind you of your limitations. Building your mind is not about arrogance, it is about responsibility. You are responsible for the thoughts you allow, the habits you repeat, and the standards you accept. No one owes you confidence. No one owes you clarity. Those are built privately every morning. When you wake up and choose discipline, you are telling life that you are prepared to carry weight. Success is heavy, and only a trained mind can hold it without collapsing. Greatness does not announce itself loudly, it prepares itself quietly. The mornings are where that preparation happens, where resilience is sharpened, where focus is protected, where purpose is renewed. You don't build your mind once. You build it daily, because every day demands a stronger version of you. Every single day, the world is ready to tell you who you are, what you are worth, and what you should settle for. But the mistake most people make is letting those voices speak first. Your mind is most powerful before it absorbs outside influence. The morning is the only time when your thoughts can be shaped without interruption, without comparison, without pressure. If you don't take control of your thinking early, you spend the rest of the day reacting instead of leading. Thought control is not about ignoring reality, it's about deciding which reality gets access to you. Before the news, before social media, before opinions and expectations, your mind must be grounded in truth, discipline, and direction. A mind without early direction becomes a battlefield. Doubt walks in unchallenged, fear takes a seat, and distractions start running the show. Most people don't lose because they lack ability. They lose because their thinking is scattered. The morning gives you a chance to organize your thoughts, to choose focus over confusion, When you control your thoughts early, you don't panic when pressure shows up later. You don't crumble under criticism, because your identity was already settled in private. The strongest people are not those who never face doubt, but those who decide early what they will believe about themselves. Thoughts are powerful, but only when they are intentional. Random thinking leads to random results. When you wake up without mental control, you hand your potential over to circumstances. You begin the day already behind, already defensive, already distracted. But when you take charge of your thinking, you move with clarity. You don't waste energy reacting to everything. You become selective. You understand that not every thought deserves your attention. A trained mind knows when to listen and when to dismiss. That discipline starts in the morning, not in the middle of chaos. The world rewards those who think clearly under pressure, but clarity does not appear magically. It is built when the mind is calm and focused. Early hours teach you to slow down your thoughts, to separate truth from noise. You remind yourself of your goals, your values, and your responsibilities. You don't allow yesterday's failures to speak louder than today's opportunity. You don't allow tomorrow's fears to steal today's discipline. Thought control is about balance. You acknowledge challenges without letting them dominate your thinking. You prepare your mind to respond with wisdom instead of emotion. Every morning, you are either programming your mind or allowing it to be programmed. There is no neutral position. If you don't feed your mind with purpose, it will consume distraction. If you don't give it direction, it will follow the loudest voice available. Mental control is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet and consistent. It's choosing what you focus on even when nobody is watching. It's understanding that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of control over your thoughts. When you master your thinking early, your actions follow with precision. Confidence becomes stable, not emotional. Decisions become intentional, not impulsive. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with your purpose. The mind becomes a tool instead of a trap. You don't overthink every obstacle because you've already trained yourself to see challenges as assignments, not threats. Control of thought leads to control of behavior, and control of behavior leads to control of direction. The morning is your defense system. It shields your mind from negativity, comparison, and unnecessary pressure. You remind yourself that progress is personal, that growth takes time, and that discipline beats motivation every time. You don't need to win the entire day at once. You only need to win your thinking before the world steps in. A focused mind walks differently, speaks differently, and responds differently. It moves with purpose, not panic. When life tests you later in the day, your response is already rehearsed. You don't break under stress because your thoughts are anchored. You don't chase validation because your worth was settled early. Thought control gives you authority over your emotions. You feel them, but they don't control you. You acknowledge pressure, but you don't surrender to it. The mind becomes your strongest ally because you trained it before distractions arrive. This is why mornings matter. Not for noise, not for rushing, but for alignment. You align your thoughts with your mission, your actions with your values, your mindset with your future. The world cannot shake a mind that was built in silence. Control your thinking before the world tries to control it. And you move through the day with strength, clarity, and unshakable focus. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes based on mood, comfort, weather, praise, and circumstances. If you build your life on motivation, your progress will always be unstable. Consistency, on the other hand, does not ask how you feel. It asks what you committed to. Every morning gives you a chance to prove that your discipline is stronger than your emotions. People wait to feel ready before they act, but consistency teaches you to act even when you feel tired, uninspired, or unsure. The mind does not grow through excitement. It grows through repetition. What you do daily matters more than what you do occasionally. Consistency is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't seek attention or validation. It shows up when nobody is watching and does the work anyway. Most people fail not because the goal is too big, but because they rely on short bursts of motivation instead of steady habits. Motivation will hype you up, but it won't carry you through hard days. Consistency will. When you train your mind every morning, even for a few minutes, you are teaching it obedience. You are telling it that discipline is the standard, not an option. That lesson compounds over time. The problem with motivation is that it makes you emotional about progress. When you feel good, you work. When you don't, you stop. Consistency removes emotion from the process. It turns growth into a routine, not a debate. You stop asking whether you should show up and start showing up automatically. That is where power is built. Greatness is not the result of feeling inspired every day. It is the result of honoring commitments long after the excitement fades. Every morning you choose consistency, you strengthen trust with yourself, you prove that your word matters. Self-trust is built when your actions match your intentions repeatedly. When you break promises to yourself, even small ones, your confidence erodes. But when you keep showing up, your mind learns that you are reliable. That reliability creates inner strength. You stop doubting yourself because you've seen what you can do when you stay disciplined. Consistency also protects you from distraction. When your routine is set, chaos has less influence over you. You don't waste energy deciding what to do each day. The decision was already made. You build your mind because that is who you are, not because you feel like it. That identity shift is everything. You don't chase motivation anymore. You operate from habit. Habits outlast feelings. Habits carry you when motivation disappears. Success responds to consistency. Talent without consistency fades. Dreams without consistency expire. The world rewards those who can perform repeatedly, not occasionally. Morning discipline trains you to perform on demand. You learn to bring focus even when conditions are not perfect. Life rarely gives perfect conditions. Waiting for them is another form of delay. Consistency teaches you to move forward anyway. When pressure comes, consistency keeps you grounded. You don't panic because your routine holds you steady. You don't lose direction because your habits guide you. Small, consistent actions create massive mental strength over time. You may not see results immediately, but the mind is being conditioned quietly. One day you look back and realize you are no longer the same person. Not because of one big moment, but because of hundreds of small disciplined mornings. Motivation wants applause. Consistency wants results. Motivation feels good. Consistency builds character. When you build your mind every morning through consistency, you stop being dependent on circumstances. You become dependable. Your growth becomes inevitable because it is no longer based on feeling ready. It is based on showing up, again and again, regardless of mood, energy, or recognition. When you wake up every morning, whether you acknowledge it or not, you are accepting responsibility for the person you are becoming. Responsibility is not heavy, avoidance is. Most people spend their lives blaming circumstances, people, timing, or luck. But the truth is simple. No one is coming to build your mind for you. Your thoughts, habits, reactions, and standards are your assignment. The moment you accept that, power returns to you. Mental conditioning is not something you outsource. It is a personal duty that must be handled daily, especially in the morning when excuses are quiet and focus is available. A weak mind looks for someone to blame. A strong mind looks for something to improve. Responsibility shifts your thinking from victimhood to ownership. You stop asking why life is hard and start asking how you can get stronger. Every morning becomes a training ground where you prepare your mind to carry pressure without breaking. Life does not reduce its demands because you are tired. It increases them as you grow. If your mind is not conditioned, success itself can overwhelm you. Responsibility teaches you to prepare for what you are praying for. Mental conditioning means you stop lying to yourself. You become honest about your discipline, your effort, and your consistency. You stop pretending that potential alone is enough. Potential is cheap, responsibility is costly. It requires sacrifice, structure, and self-control. Every morning you either strengthen your standards or you weaken them. There is no pause button. The mind is always being shaped, either by intention or neglect. When you skip mental conditioning, something else fills the space, usually distraction, doubt, or fear. Responsibility also means guarding what enters your mind. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your energy. When you take responsibility for your mental state, you become selective. You choose growth over gossip, focus over noise, purpose over pleasure. The morning is where those choices are easiest to make. Later in the day, the world competes aggressively for your attention. Early hours allow you to set boundaries before pressure tests them. A responsible mind understands that discipline is self-respect in action. You don't build your mind because someone is watching. You build it because you refuse to disappoint yourself. The strongest form of accountability is internal. When you hold yourself to a standard, you don't need constant motivation or supervision. You wake up knowing what is required. That clarity creates confidence. Confidence is not arrogance. It is the calm assurance that you are doing the work consistently. Mental conditioning is also about emotional control. Responsibility teaches you that emotions are signals, not commanders. You feel fear, but you don't obey it. You experience doubt, but you don't surrender to it. You acknowledge stress, but you don't let it dictate your behavior. Every morning you rehearse this control quietly. You remind yourself that feelings change, but commitments remain. That rehearsal prepares you for moments when pressure tries to push you off course. When you accept responsibility for your mind, excuses lose their power. You stop saying you don't have time and start making time. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start working with what you have. Growth accelerates when excuses are removed. Responsibility simplifies life. It removes confusion and replaces it with direction. You know what needs to be done, and you do it without negotiation. The world respects people who take responsibility because they are dependable. Dependability starts in private, in the morning, when no one is watching. You show up for yourself before you show up for anyone else. That self-leadership reflects in how you speak, how you walk, how you decide. You don't crumble under pressure because your mind has been trained to stand firm. Every morning you are either strengthening your ability to lead yourself or reinforcing habits that keep you stuck. Responsibility makes that choice clear. You don't need perfect discipline. You need honest effort. You don't need dramatic routines. You need consistent conditioning. The mind responds to what you repeatedly demand from it. When you demand focus, it sharpens. When you demand resilience, it adapts. When you demand growth, it evolves. Owning your mental conditioning means accepting that progress is personal. You stop comparing timelines and start honoring your process. You understand that mastery takes time and patience. Responsibility gives you the patience to stay committed without immediate results. You trust the process because you are actively participating in it every morning. This is how strength is built quietly. This is how leaders are formed internally before they are recognized externally. You wake up, you take responsibility, you train your mind, and you prepare yourself for whatever the day brings, knowing that no matter what happens, the foundation was already laid before the world showed up. Every morning is a test you take before anyone grades you. There is no audience, no scoreboard, no applause, just you and the choices you make when comfort is loud and discipline is quiet. This is where real character is built, not on stages, not in celebrations, but in repetition. The mind does not become strong by accident. It becomes strong by pressure applied consistently. When you build your mind every morning, you are conditioning yourself to face life without flinching. You are teaching yourself to move forward even when the results are not immediate, even when recognition is absent, even when the work feels heavy. Most people want outcomes without endurance. They want success without sacrifice, clarity without effort, strength without struggle. But the mind doesn't grow in ease, it grows in resistance. Morning discipline introduces controlled resistance. You wake up and choose effort over ease, focus over comfort, responsibility over excuses. That choice may feel small, but it compounds. The mind remembers who was in charge. Over time, you stop negotiating with weakness because weakness no longer has authority over you. Pressure is not your enemy. Unpreparedness is. Life will apply pressure whether you train or not. Deadlines, criticism, failure, expectations, responsibility all arrive without warning. A trained mind doesn't panic under pressure. It adjusts. It stays calm. It responds instead of reacting. That calm does not come from confidence alone, it comes from conditioning. Just like an athlete trains before the competition, you train your mind before the day competes for your attention. Building your mind every morning is about learning to delay gratification. You learn to say no to what feels good now so you can say yes to what matters later. That discipline sharpens decision-making. You stop chasing quick comfort and start investing in long-term growth. The mind becomes patient. It understands that real progress is slow, steady, and demanding. You stop quitting because quitting no longer feels like relief. It feels like betrayal of the work you already put in. The morning teaches you humility. It reminds you that greatness is built from the ground up. No shortcuts, no cheating, no skipping steps. You show up knowing there are no guarantees, only effort. That humility keeps you grounded when success comes and resilient when failure appears. You don't get high on praise or crushed by criticism because your identity was forged in discipline, not approval. A trained mind understands timing. It knows when to push and when to pause, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to act and when to observe. That wisdom develops through daily reflection and focus. You begin to see patterns. You recognize distractions faster. You protect your energy. The mind becomes strategic instead of emotional. You stop reacting to everything because not everything deserves a response. Building your mind every morning also sharpens your standards. You stop accepting mediocrity from yourself. You raise the bar quietly. You expect effort even on hard days. You expect honesty when you fall short. You expect growth even when progress feels slow. Standards shape behavior. When your standards are high, your excuses have nowhere to hide. The mornings also teach you solitude. You learn to be alone with your thoughts without running from them. You face doubts directly instead of numbing them with noise. That courage strengthens you. A person who can sit with their thoughts can handle pressure anywhere. Silence becomes a tool, not a threat. In that silence, clarity grows. Consistency in the morning builds credibility with yourself. You start trusting your ability to follow through. That trust creates inner confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation. You walk differently when you know you've done the work. You speak differently when your mind is prepared. You decide differently when your thoughts are organized. Every disciplined morning adds another layer to your mental armor. You may not feel it immediately, but it's there. When setbacks come, you don't collapse. When plans fail, you regroup. When pressure increases, you don't shrink, you adapt. That adaptability is one of the greatest strengths a person can have. It comes from repeated exposure to controlled discomfort. Building your mind is also about responsibility to the future version of yourself. The person you want to become is depending on what you do today. Every morning you either help that future or make it harder. Discipline is an investment you make without immediate return, trusting that the compound effect will show itself in time. That trust separates builders from dreamers. A strong mind does not complain about the process. It respects it. It understands that growth is supposed to be uncomfortable. If it were easy, everyone would be disciplined. The fact that it's hard is what makes it valuable. Every morning you endure discomfort voluntarily, you reduce the power of involuntary discomfort later in life. The mind you build in the morning determines the decisions you make under pressure. Weak preparation leads to emotional decisions. Strong preparation leads to deliberate action. You stop letting fear decide for you. You stop letting fatigue dictate your behavior. You become steady. That steadiness is rare, and rarity creates impact. This daily mental work changes how you see obstacles. They stop looking like threats and start looking like tests. Tests are meant to be passed, not feared. You approach challenges with curiosity instead of anxiety. You ask what this moment is teaching you instead of why it's happening to you. That shift in perspective is powerful. When you build your mind every morning, you stop depending on external motivation. You generate internal drive. You no longer need someone to push you because discipline pulls you forward. That independence is freedom. You are no longer controlled by moods, praise, or circumstances. You are controlled by commitment. Over time, the mind you build becomes your greatest asset. It protects you when things go wrong and amplifies you when things go right. It keeps you focused when others are distracted. It keeps you grounded when others are shaken. This is the result of choosing discipline repeatedly, quietly, consistently, every single morning. Every day you wake up, life is already moving, already demanding, already testing your focus, and if your mind is not prepared, you spend the day catching up instead of leading. A sharp mind is not built by reacting, it is built by intention. When you train your mind every morning, you are choosing clarity over chaos. You are deciding what matters before distractions try to decide for you. Most people feel busy but accomplish little because their minds are scattered. Focus is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced daily. The morning is the training ground where focus is either strengthened or neglected. A focused mind knows where to place its energy. Energy is limited, and wasting it on unnecessary thoughts, comparisons, or worries drains your potential. Morning mental training teaches you to prioritize. You learn to separate urgency from importance. Not everything loud is important, and not everything important is loud. When your mind is trained early, you stop chasing every demand and start committing to what aligns with your purpose. That discipline saves time, protects peace, and increases impact. Clarity does not come from doing more. It comes from thinking better. The morning allows you to slow your thoughts before the day speeds them up. You organize your intentions. You decide how you will respond to pressure, how you will handle setbacks, how you will manage distractions. Without that preparation, emotions take control. A prepared mind does not eliminate emotion, it manages it. You still feel stress, but it doesn't dominate your decisions. You still face uncertainty, but it doesn't paralyze your action. Training your mind every morning also strengthens patience. Patience is not passive, it is controlled strength. A focused mind understands that results take time and that rushing often leads to mistakes. You stop forcing outcomes and start trusting process. That trust keeps you consistent even when progress feels slow. You don't quit because you don't see immediate results. You stay committed because you understand growth happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. The mind is constantly asking for direction. If you don't give it direction, it looks for stimulation. That is why distraction feels so tempting. Distraction gives the illusion of movement without progress. Morning mental discipline teaches your mind to tolerate stillness, to focus on one thing at a time, to stay present. Presence is power. When your attention is fully engaged, your effort becomes effective. You do less, but you do it better. A focused mind also improves decision-making. Indecision is often a result of mental clutter. When too many thoughts compete for attention, clarity disappears. Morning training clears that clutter. You simplify. You remind yourself of your values, your goals, your non-negotiables. Decisions become easier because they are filtered through purpose. You stop second-guessing yourself because you already know what you stand for. Mental focus protects you from comparison. Comparison scatters the mind and weakens confidence. When you build your mind every morning, you become grounded in your own path. You understand that progress is personal. You stop measuring your journey against someone else's highlight. Focused minds stay in their lane. They move steadily forward without being distracted by what others are doing. The discipline of focus also builds resilience. When challenges arise, a scattered mind panics, a focused mind adjusts. You don't waste energy complaining about the obstacle. You look for solutions. You stay calm under pressure because your thoughts are organized. That calmness is not accidental. It is the result of daily mental conditioning. Every morning you train focus, you are strengthening your ability to finish what you start. Many people start strong but fade quickly because their attention shifts. Focus keeps you locked in. It keeps you committed, even when the work becomes repetitive or difficult. That ability to stay engaged separates achievers from dreamers. Focus also sharpens self-awareness. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking. You recognize which thoughts help you and which ones hold you back. Awareness gives you control. You don't suppress negative thoughts, you challenge them. You replace confusion with clarity. Over time, your inner dialogue becomes more disciplined, more constructive, more aligned with growth. A trained mind understands that attention is currency. Where you place it determines what grows. Morning discipline teaches you to invest that currency wisely. You stop giving attention to things that drain you and start feeding thoughts that strengthen you. That shift changes how you experience the day. You feel more grounded, more intentional, more in control. When your mind is focused, your actions follow with precision. You don't rush, but you don't delay. You move with purpose. You speak with intention. You listen more carefully. Focus improves not only productivity but also relationships. You become present instead of distracted. Presence builds trust and respect. The world is full of noise, opinions, and distractions competing for your attention. A mind that is not trained early becomes overwhelmed by that noise. But a mind built in the morning moves through the noise without losing direction. You don't absorb everything. You filter. You choose. That choice gives you freedom. This daily focus training compounds. One focused morning leads to a focused hour. Focused hours lead to focused days. Focused days lead to focused years. Over time, people notice your consistency, your calm, your clarity. What they don't see is the quiet work you did when nobody was watching. Building your mind every morning is not about controlling the world. It is about controlling your attention within it. When you master that, distractions lose their power, pressure loses its grip, and your actions align naturally with your purpose. A focused mind becomes your competitive advantage, your stabilizer, your guide through uncertainty, and your anchor in a demanding world.